I think we've got a really good group of people here. So let's kick off. Thank you so much to everyone for making time to join our fourth webinar today. We'll be talking about cross-border cost and risk sharing models for apprenticeships, particularly going from African countries to Germany. Slide, please. As a quick intro, my name is Prerna Chaudhary, and I want to thank you all again for joining our webinar. Before we move into the actual content, I want to make sure our content is accessible to everyone. So if you would like to follow along in another language, you can do that through the caption function on the menu bar. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a box with CC written inside it, and this should give you access to changing captions to different languages. Next slide, please. So what is the Mobility Finance Network? Hopefully already familiar with what we do, but we promote financial solutions in support of a global mobility industry for good, benefiting those on the move, ranging from workers, students, or refugees worldwide. And this was the MFN was born within labor mobility partnerships in 2024, and we now have an informal membership of over 300 people. Next slide, please. And so what do we do? What we've noticed what we've seen as one of the biggest challenges is a lack of targeted funding or financing for those on the move. And so whether this is demonstrated by a lack of cross-border mobility showing up as a core funding or financing priority for many traditional funders and investors, or whether it's a lack of financial products in the formal financial system that's tailored for those on the move, or even the ecosystem that supports them. So think about working capital for recruiters or insurance products for employers. So really to bring more attention and conversation to the space, we launched the Mobility Finance Network in 2024, but really kicked off activity last year. And it's a community of people and ideas at the intersection of the three circles that you see here. So finance for impact, cross-border mobility, human rights, and livelihoods. And our rationale for the creation of such a space is that we hope to nudge these three groups towards thinking more about the intersection between these circles. And so as facilitators of this network, Alicia, who some of you may have already heard from at the beginning of this call or in previous webinars, and myself, we represent mobility finance interests at global events. We connect practitioners and funders and other ecosystem representatives, and we convene groups to work through topical challenges and share ideas across contexts. Next slide, please. So we have three areas of focus in this webinar series. Each of these contribute to a stronger, healthier, and more transparent mobility ecosystem. In this session, we'll be focusing on funding the mobility process for migrant workers, and future sessions will focus on business support and tech integration and investments. And so, of course, if you are interested in being a panelist, in recommending a panelist, or if you have an idea and we can source panelists for that idea, please do reach out. We're actively building pipeline this year, and it'll be better if it represents what you guys would want to see. Thank you. Next slide. So why would we seek financing for people on the move? Because in reality, it's a misconception that employers will cover all migration-related costs. The practical reality that we see on the ground is that workers cover many of the costs not mentioned in ILO's Convention 181, and specifically costs related to skill building, language learning, and general readiness for migration, which are also often not covered by employers apart from specific sectors. So significant upfront financial investment is needed if you just think about living expenses and the opportunity cost and the cost of time taken away from work during study, and add to that setup cost in a new country, and it's becomes quickly apparent that cross-border migration is prohibitively expensive, especially if it is a cost that's not reimbursable or refunded, even once the worker migrates. And we'll talk about that in today's case study. Next slide, please. So a quick word on how to participate. Please use the chat function. I think Alicia, Rebecca, everyone from LAMP is very active on chat. We'd love for you to join us in making the Mobility Finance Network an interactive community. to these webinars. And if you have specific questions for the panelists, please use the Q&A section, which we will be monitoring closely. Next slide, please. And so without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce our speakers for today, Denise Erber from Bauverbände, who will be joined by Heinz Rittmann during the Q&A. They're both with us here today. Bauverbände is a construction association in Germany that has been piloting a cost and risk sharing model between employers and apprentices. So under this approach, apprentices coming from Africa initially cover upfront costs and then are reimbursed as they reach key milestones at the destination, being Germany, which creates clear incentives and shared skin in the game on both sides. And as we all know, cross-border employment, especially for apprenticeships, traineeships, and moving to Germany, come with high upfront costs. So we're really excited that Denise and Heinz have made the time to join us today to share how this model works in practice and what they're learning along the way. But before we go into their presentation, a little bit about our speakers today. So Denise Erber is a project assistant for the Bauverbände Construction Association and is assisting with international activities with a focus on labor migration and capacity building projects. Denise holds a degree of Master of Science with a major in global studies and a focus on migration studies from the University of Gothenburg. Heinz Rittmann is a German civil engineer and a business economist with extensive experience in international SME development, particularly in the construction sector. Since 1999, Mr. Rittmann has been working with the Bauverbände Construction Association. He has served as deputy CEO with the association since 2009. He's also the CEO of the German Foreign Construction Association. In parallel, he works as an independent consultant, author, and expert in international business cooperation, institutional development, and joint ventures. Over more than 2 decades, he has initiated and managed numerous international cooperation projects with a strong regional focus on sub-Saharan Africa. He has collaborated closely with German and European institutions, including GIZ, GTZ, ProInvest, the German Federal Ministries and International Development Organizations. So you can see why we're so excited to have both of them here. I'll now hand over to Denise to take us through the model that Bauverbände is implementing. Thank you so much, Denise and Heinz, for being with us today. Over to you, Denise. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Prerna. Yeah, we are happy to be here today and talk about our association and our approach to labor migration or filling vacant trainee positions in the construction sector in Germany with suitable candidates from non-EU countries, mostly, like Prerna already said, sub-Saharan Africa region, and how it is financed, of course. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start by introducing to you our association. So Bauverbände NRWEV is a regional association representing the interests of now actually about 5,000 small and medium-sized construction companies. And Bauverbände NRW speaks for the construction sector vis-à-vis politicians, other economic groups, and the public in legal, economic, socio-political, and technical terms. And the services of Bauverbände NRW include consultancy services, information services, political representation, as well as training or giving seminars. And in addition, the association also addresses the current issues such as sustainability, digitalization, and against the background of the growing shortage of skilled workers, especially in the construction sector, also securing skilled labor in particular. Next slide, please. So here's some numbers concerning the construction sector in Germany. It is a very important sector of the German economy with about 2.6 million employees as of 2024 and 360,000 construction companies as of 2025. And we have the primary construction sector consisting of building construction and civil engineering, where we have around 82,000 companies with 916,000 employees. And of those, 24% hold a non-German passport. The sector in the construction sector is dominated by small companies. So almost 90% of companies have fewer than 20 employees. Next slide, please. So Germany's construction sector faces a skilled labor shortage due to an aging workforce. So we have baby boomers retiring and fewer young people entering the trades, partly because, for instance, university education is seen as more prestigious and higher paying than vocational training, which is a misconception. And additionally, there is a mismatch often between the skills offered by job seekers and those demanded by employers. And inflexible workplace dynamics and regulation hinder labor mobility. And as you can see here on the right-hand side on the graph, there is a gap between the apprentices coming into the sector or starting a new traineeship in the construction sector and new pension entrants. So by 2030, it is expected that the German construction industry will lack around 100,000 workers if nothing is done. Or yeah, next slide, please. So many apprenticeship positions in the construction sector, like I said, remain unfilled. There are more than 2 training positions for every registered applicant in building construction and civil engineering. And early termination is also a hindrance because training contracts, which are actually signed, often are terminated before the apprenticeship is finished. For instance, about half of them terminate their contract in the first year, 32% in the second, and 15% in the third. Possible reasons are, for instance, either mutual agreement because there's a mismatch of expectations and the reality of the traineeship, or unsuitability, like the physical demand expected, or body condition may be not suitable for the heavy work, and also poor performance, like a lack of interest or motivation. So construction companies, they are urgently looking for apprentices and skilled workers. Next slide, please. So how do we as Bauverbände NRW address this problem? So we see great potential in filling vacant apprenticeship positions in the construction sector with motivated candidates from the sub-Saharan African region. We, for instance, support our member companies in finding suitable applicants. We also support with the organization and preparation process. We inform the young people from the sub-Saharan region who are interested in training about the apprenticeships available in the construction sector, about the workplace culture, about the expectations. So we have different workshops and presentations to inform them. And we also match the candidates interested in vocational training with our member construction companies. Okay, so next slide, please. Here you can see a time-based development showing the candidates we have been matching since 2022 with German construction companies until last year. For instance, 2022, the first candidate we matched was from Mozambique. He's already finished his traineeship and is now working at the company full-time. And 2023, we started matching Ethiopian candidates, also 2 female candidates. And 2024, we had quite a few, 28 candidates, which we matched with German construction companies. 2025, we started a project with GIZ where we matched candidates from Ghana and Senegal. As you can see, we've only been able to match candidates with, from Ghana, but we come to that later for about the reasons. And in total, as of 2025, we matched 65 candidates. Next slide. Here you can also see the sector-specific development. So most of the candidates we match with construction companies from the civil engineering. Then second is the building construction sector with 34%. 9% is non-commercial training like office management or assistant draftswomen. You can see that's where most of the females went that we matched. We also had some candidates who now work in an electrical company and heat, cold, and sound insulator as well. Next slide. Okay, now, like I said, we have one apprentice from Mozambique who has finished or completed the 3-year training program, is now working as a road builder. We have now actually 3 finished candidates from Ethiopia. Here's the written 2 who completed a 2-year training program. One of them completed it with a short, like a 3-year program, with a shorter time, because he was that motivated and that good. Next slide. And as you can see, our dropout rate is really tiny. So we have on part of trainees 0% who drop out from the traineeship. On part of the companies, we have 1 company who fired a candidate. So yeah, 1 out of 65 is still quite good. Next slide, please. And now we come actually to the pool approach. We will go into detail in the next slide. So the pool approach basically aims to match German construction companies with suitable candidates from non-EU countries to complete an apprenticeship in Germany. And considering the low chances of receiving recognition of previous qualifications and certificates in the skilled craft sector, Bauverbände believes that migration into the dual vocational education and training is currently the most practicable way to utilize the opportunities offered by the Skilled Workers Immigration Act. So the pool approach consists of 5 phases that you can see here. So we have first the identification of candidates, then the German language classes, the contract signing and formal preparation, then what happens after arrival in Germany, and then the apprenticeship in the construction company. And on the next slide, we will go into more detail now. Next slide, please. So in the phase 1, identification of candidates, one of the activities is that trusted local partners, they are the ones identifying potential apprentices with a construction background. So we are not using any agencies. Then, like I said, we have 4 workshops for the interested candidates and their parents. First, Bauverbände is holding these workshops with their partners in the partner countries. So the aim is that in the future, it will be like that the local partners will continue holding those workshops. So we don't we are not doing those workshops every time as Bauverbände, so it should be the local partners and continuing those workshops. So the first one is working and living in Germany, so what it entails. Then we have a workshop about the vocational training in the construction sectors, what jobs are available, and what they actually do there with practical examples, so they know what it entails, like the hard work or the heavy toll it is on the body in some cases. Then we have the intercultural introduction, and also a new workshop we created are the expectations of German construction contractors from apprentices in the professional environment. And then we also have a letter of consent, which is signed between the candidates, the family members, and also Bauverbände. It basically shows the rights and responsibilities of each party, so everybody knows what they go into, what is expected of them. And on the right-hand side, you can see the costs. So the identification of candidates with a construction background is carried out free of charge. So it's different from the agency who might take money from the company or from the apprentice. So it's completely free of charge. The video conferences that Bauverbände is doing, they're also free of charge. And the letter of consent is also free of charge. So in the first step, there are no costs involved. Next slide, please. Then we come to the second phase, which are the German language courses. They're carried out in their home country, so in sub-Saharan African region. the candidates, they complete courses at the Goethe Institute up to the level B1. Then, as you can already see on the right-hand side, I'm switching now. Fees for the language courses, they are pre-financed actually by the candidates. So all expenses must be documented with a receipt, because I will come to that later. Later on, it's reimbursed, but first they have to finance it by themselves. They also have to finance the language exam B1. I've also checked some numbers. So basically, you go from A11, A12, B11, B12, and each course costs 12,000 birr, which is around so in total, it's like 48,000 birr, which is 259 euros. Or it might cost 76,000. It depends on the course, which is around 415 euros for the courses. And then the exam also costs money per module. There are 4 modules: listening, talking, speaking, hearing, which is in total around 88 euros. And they all have to pre-finance that. For B1, like they're all going into a pool. That's why it's called the pool approach. And sometimes when they are doing or having the language exam B1 and they're finishing late, for instance, when they're finished like in October, then it's hard to match them with a company because they're already starting the traineeship here in Germany in September or October. So that's when they are waiting in the pool, and the latecomers, we as Bauverbände offer to test them before we start matching them the next round, the next year, 2.5 months before matching, so we can make sure that they are still at the level B1, or if not, that they can prepare before we have the interview with the company. And then we have the matching with the German construction companies via video call, which we arrange. So Heinz is usually checking the CVs, like after they finish the exam B1, we receive the CVs of the candidates. Heinz is checking them, and then he's checking which company they might fit best into, and then we are arranging the interviews. And the language test we offer is free of charge, and the matching the candidates with the companies is also free of charge. Next slide. So in the third phase, we have the contract signing and the formal preparation. So first, the contracts are all basically the same trainee contracts, but it should include the regulations on cost distribution. So it should include the reimbursement of the costs later on. Also, the company, they have to organize affordable accommodation, usually because we are matching them with construction companies, also from the building construction. They usually have connections, so they most of them, they have affordable accommodation they can offer to the candidates. I think it was about 15% who, after the interview, have to say, no, we cannot offer you an apprenticeship because we weren't able to find accommodation for you. So it's really just a small number where we have that trouble. Then they have to apply for preliminary approval from the Federal Employment Agency. We also assist with that. It's basically just a form that they fill out, but the waiting times might be sometimes quite long. Then next comes the booking of the flight and applying for the visa. The candidates should be the ones booking the flight. Of course, we can assist there, but they will be the ones paying for it. And the visa cost is about 75 euros. They also should be pre-financing that. But the insurance, they need like incoming insurance. Until from the moment they board the plane until they are starting the internship, and that's arranged by the company and also paid for. Then we can also identify a caretaker. At the moment, the senior expert service, they're offering free help with all the registration things they have to do after coming to Germany, opening a bank account and such things. So that's free of charge. So on the right-hand side, the costs for the visa, yeah, like I said, it's pre-financed by the candidates. Health and liability insurance arranged by the company. Okay, next slide, please. Then we come to the phase what happens after arrival in Germany. So after arrival, the apprentice is usually picked up by an employee from the company, usually 1 week before the start of the apprenticeship, because earlier wouldn't make sense, because with a visa, they are not allowed to work before the contract starting date or the trainee starting date. So we also advise that they're not coming too early to Germany, because they wouldn't be able to do anything. Then they're introduced to the company. Then they can also apply for support and funding programs here in Germany. But at the moment, because we have from this year on, April, the salary is actually quite high. So there are not many funding programs then available. Yeah, so then the next steps, what I already said, is opening a bank account, registering at the residence office and the immigration office, to apply for the residence permit. So they can do that either with somebody from the company, if the company is big enough and have support, or they can do that with the senior expert service, or different caretaker. So the living expenses up to the first training allowance and furnishings, they're usually covered, or they should be covered by the company, because we also tell the company like they are just arriving with the baggage, so they don't have anything. And because they cannot just come here and pre-finance everything if the salary is coming like 1 month later. So they usually pay like for the living expenses for the first month rental for the employee or trainee. And like in Germany, the trainees, they are basically allowed to work up to 20 hours per week. It is permitted, but we also advise to them to stay realistic, because lots of them, they want to work, they want to send money back home to Ethiopia to their families, but once they arrive, they have to integrate into the country. That everything is new, the culture is new, so it's just not realistic for them to work that much. So yeah, they have to stay realistic. Okay, next slide. Yeah. Yeah, so apprenticeship in the construction company. So then the apprenticeship starts. We also advise them, once they're here, to organize further language courses, so they can continue learning, especially for school, because they might not need German language that much while working on the field. But in school, it's to pass the exam. It's really important for them. There are some offers which are free of charge for the language courses, which I can take. And we also have regular exchange between the company and the apprentice and the training center, to make sure that everything is going well, that they're fitting in. And if there is trouble, like Heinz also had like a few telephone calls with trainees just to, solve any trouble which came up, or trying to find solutions. And after the final examination, so the goal is that everybody is staying here, and they are then working as skilled workers. And like we saw on the previous slides, we already have now 4 skilled workers here in Germany. And this year should be like few more who started 2023. They should be finished, and we are very excited to see if everybody is, finishing their final examination and can continue here working. The costs after the successful start of the apprenticeship, the trainees, they are reimbursed for their expenses by the company, because like we heard before, they had to pre-finance everything, the flight, the visa costs, and the language courses. So it's about roughly 2,000 euros in total. We usually round up. And the company, we advise them to reimburse that in 3 tranches, on 3 steps. The first third after the start of the apprenticeship. The second after successful completion of the final examination, and the third after 2 years of work as a skilled worker. But every company is basically handling that differently. So we have a lot of companies who pay them everything like once they arrive, so they are like able to get started with the money. And but Heinz will probably also say that it's never have been an issue, neither from the companies nor from the trainees has that been an issue with the reimbursement. And yeah, like I said, the language courses, they can be funded by the ministry, Bundesamt für Migration. Yeah, Heinz, do you know how it's called? The Ministry of
Bundesamt für Migration und Flüchtlinge.
Yeah, in German, I know. Yeah, there's like a ministry offering free German courses, so which they can also use. And there's like the Goethe Institute also has great online options, so they can continue learning the language. Okay, next slide. Yeah, but with every approach or every, what we try to do, there are always some limitations. One of them is that there is a limited capacity of the Goethe Institute. So we have a lot of interested candidates who want to enter the B1 courses in Ethiopia as well. But there is a lack, of course, of German teachers, and of space maybe to provide the language training to more candidates at once. Also, we rely on our local partners that they follow our agreed criteria, for instance, to find suitable candidates locally. And we need the working relationship with our partners. But at the moment, we do not have any issues. So, yeah. And we are still in the phase, of course, of raising awareness among German construction companies about hiring trainees from third countries. So we have around, like we said before, we have like 5,000 member companies. Of them, we have maybe 30 companies where we were able to match candidates to. So there's still a lot of work to sensibilize our construction companies that it's okay, or that it's also a good choice to offer trainee positions to workers from abroad or from third countries. Yeah, and one other limitation which I wanted to talk about, but which is actually not listed here, but might be coming up as well, is a challenge about the gender approach. So it's matching women with suitable construction companies for training. It's a challenge because we discussed with building contractors, and they revealed various obstacles, for instance, including women's perceived and actual lower physical strength. So we had also a candidate who couldn't or can't work at the moment because she has back pain, because she couldn't, bear with the physical demands of the job. Also, there's a coarse language on the construction site. So a lot of employers say that it seems inappropriate for women. And so they're reluctant to hire women. And there's also sometimes a lack of equipment, so suitable protective clothing, for instance, in the proper sizes needed for women, or separate toilets or changing rooms as well. So it has been a challenge to match women with construction companies. So that's, the last point I wanted to make. And now thank you for your attention. And to you, Heinz, if you want to add something before we open the floor for questions.
I have nothing to add perfectly. Thank you very much, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. Really appreciated the detailed and comprehensive presentation. And we have so many questions, just a reflection on how much interest there is in the topic. So maybe the way I'll let you and Heinz figure it out between you, but maybe Heinz can take a pass and you can come in if that works for the both of you. So starting with Fabio, who would like to know how you manage the issues of skills and diploma recognition for civil engineers.
Hello, Fabio. I hope you are fine. Long time no see. Very easy. When we developed this system, we made it on the base of this year 2020 new German skilled worker immigration law. We studied the hints, and we draw the conclusion with this skilled worker immigration law, the German one, we will match any person from third countries. The recognition is of local professions, is full of bureaucracy, takes long time, costs a lot of money, and our companies will not follow this way. But we discovered the possibility of the apprentices, and and we made one with another topic, one workshop in Ethiopia. And besides this normal topic, we asked them, we described a little bit in a fast way the possibilities of apprenticeships in Germany, in the German construction center. And we asked them, could this be a possibility for you, or it's interesting for you? 20 persons were participating, 50% academic, 50% non-academic background, also 50% women and 50% male. And nearly everyone raised immediately his hand up. And that was for us a sign they are interested. Then we made the same topic, another workshop in Germany, where we asked German construction contractors, is it a possibility for you, for your company, to look for additional apprentices? And from this workshop in Germany, we also get 20 interests for candidates from Africa. At the beginning, we promoted Jordan and Ethiopia. Then we switched to Mozambique and Ethiopia. And now last year we added also Ghana and Senegal, because we always got not enough candidates. The demand in Germany was higher. And also, it's very important to say, Denise mentioned that the German construction sector is dominated by the small companies. You also must develop a system that's appropriate for the small companies, because I think 80% of these small companies are responsible for 75% of all the places for apprentices. So it must be a system that's fit. And this is also one point of, I can say accusation. Some others are talking about triple win. Triple wins means sending country, receiving country, and the migrant. But nobody's talking about the company. And as Denise mentioned, we must explain them the risk distribution, the finance distribution, and to integrate also these small and medium-sized companies. And to convince the small ones, we have a rising number of companies, new companies, and also who already asked for new apprentices from the mentioned countries this year. It needs time, but we are optimistic that every year we will rise up this number of apprentices from this country. Now I made it on presentation, sorry.
Thank you, Heinz. We actually have 9 more questions. For the next question, for the worker fired by the employer, why were they fired? And was the person returned to the country of origin? And who paid for the cost of the return of travel? From Erika Nishimura.
Also, one person of the 60s were fired by the company because he was very often not appearing in the company or in the vocational school or in the industry-wide training center. The company made the normal thing, tried to talk with him, sent warning letters. But what I've heard also from the Ethiopian community, it was a guy from Ethiopia, I heard that he has other interests than the profession. And this was also one of the arguments that we readjust last year our criteria. This guy was not from our partners. It was my mistake, because 1 year earlier we received other candidates with B1 who were not from our partners. Until this, they were performing well. But last year we have some challenges with these apprentices who are not from our partners. And so we decided no more candidates who are not from our partners. He has a legal possibility within 6 months to look for a new training company. He was fired, I think, on the 1st of October last year. So we have to wait some months. What happened with him? Did he that he finds a new apprenticeship? We will see at final if the company is not paying for the flyback. I think what I've heard, he is also not able to pay his flyback. At final, perhaps the German taxpayer must pay it.
Thanks, Heinz. This is a quick one, and I think Denise actually mentioned it, but it would be good to remind everyone. What is the total amount that the migrants pre-finance? This is from Liz Warren.
Also, good question. Also, we must differ between the countries. Denise mentioned for Ethiopia 2,000 euro. We know it's a lot of money in Germany, but it's much more money in Ethiopia, 2,000 euro. How it's solved? The families are putting the money together. That's also the reason that the apprentices under a high pressure to earn money, and that two Ethiopians said, we don't want a 3-year apprenticeship, we prefer a 2-year apprenticeship. That's possible in the German construction sector too, because we want to earn money. Mozambique is a little bit different because our local partner is a Pash school in Beira, and their normal business is also to offer German language courses for free, or they are included. And so the cost for the German language courses are outside. Nobody has to pay for it. Only Goethe Institute at final. And Ghana and Senegal are different because this is an European Union project. GIZ asked us, do you want to work with us together? And until last year, we have the number of the price for all the costs who are produced in Ghana and Senegal were 4,000 euro. And the risk distribution was modified. I said in a bad way because the company has to pay the whole amount 2 weeks after signing the apprenticeship contract. And especially the smaller companies said, oh, and what I'm doing after 3 weeks, if he's who are not experienced with this topic, who are newcomers, what I'm doing if he's leaving after 3 weeks, my company, then I have paid and nothing. Now GIZ modified it in our way. They reduced the cost to 3,800, and they said the candidate has to pre-finance the fly. The company has to pay 1,900 euro 2 weeks after signing the contract, and 1,900 euro after 1 year, and also refinance the fly cost 1 year after signing the contract. They are moving in the right direction, but I think it's a political discussion within the GIZ. I'm only, it's a risk distribution. But also, I know it, the people from Ethiopia call the companies who is booking the fly, and then the companies are calling us, and we are saying, answer please, we are following the pool approach. You have to book the fly and finance it. We know it's heavy, but also it's a selling argument for the companies because they see they are learning German language within. They are much more talented in languages than me. I hope you understand my English or whatever I'm using. They are very talented, they are motivated, engaged, and this is also a selling argument for the companies who are not involved until today in the system.
Thank you, Heinz. And actually, the next question relates to some of the challenges, or rather the acknowledgement of how this is a big number for candidates in Ethiopia and other sub-Saharan countries. So are there any mechanisms in place to support candidates who cannot provide the pre-financing themselves, or where trainees And later, skilled workers, if they have difficulties receiving reimbursements from companies, or even if not now, are you thinking about mechanisms for that?
Yes, we are in talks with KfW, because if you look how many people we match every year and how much money it is in totally, we ask KfW, do you think it's possible, for example, that you pre-finance half of the amount? Let's talk about 2,000 euro. The families and their candidates must still stay in the risk. We would ever reject if there is no, let's say, risk distribution between candidate or apprentice and company. For the company, it's not important that they refund it to the family half of the amount and the other half to the fund back. So I think if everything is working and the candidates are selected appropriate by the local partners, then the money is not lost, not for the families and not for the KfW. But KfW needs some time to look for the bureaucracy.
Appreciate that. The next question, Heinz, is from Laure Joachim. What type of organizations do you consider, or how do you assess trusted local partners?
Also, very good partner question. Yeah, first, we are saying a trustful partner is a partner who has sustainable, I think we call it sustainable and non-commercial interest. And we met first the Addis Ababa Design and Construction Works Bureau, Ayanish, very nice person, no commercial interest. And she asked us, can we cooperate in this field because we have so many poor workers? Also, take a look in the salary that the people in Ethiopia are earning, then you see it. And she never asked for money or for something else. One time, because we work very good with her and her institution, I bought some chocolate, not expensive, 5-6 euro, one package. She said, no, thank you very much. It's nice behavior. But if you agree, I can give the chocolate to some people in the street. They have bigger problems than me. So you see, no monetary interest. She wants to help her people from Ethiopia, and this is perfect behavior. Then the Ministry of Labor and Skills discovered us. Meanwhile, we also have with both a memorandum of understanding. And then it was very interesting in Ethiopia. Our partners in a project from the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development asked us, Construction Contractors Association, why you are doing this with the public and not with us. I thought to myself, in general, they are right, but there could be the danger then you send the complete family to Germany. But we tried it, and I'm sure some family members arrived in Germany, but also with a good performance, very good performance, but also we received non-family members and no friends. We can check it with our friends in Ethiopia outside the project. So we also made very good experience until today with the associations, and they also never asked for money. And today we talked about it. We have had a delegation from Morocco. They also asked, could it be a solution to work with our federation from Morocco and you? Also in Mozambique, we are working with the PASH school. Goethe Institute, definitely trusted partners. They have no commercial interest, so it's working. In Ghana, Senegal, I think this question, who will identify the candidates? Until today, the GIZ made it. But who will do it if the project is finished? Who is paying for it? Where's the sustainability? So I have a solution in my mind, but I'm not sure that's agreed by GIZ.
Thanks, Heinz. Sounds like a combination of both integrity and ethical attributes and then brand name. The next question is from Colin, who would be interested in how you go about handling or considering the length of timelines. So given how long it takes to reach B1 German and then visa processing and then skills matching, are the apprentices skills profiles still relevant by the time they get to Germany? How have you been thinking or addressing this?
Also, I think in general, we need, we can say 12 months for everything. From the, let's say, if we are involved with the workshops or the local partners are realizing the workshops, they need 9 months for the German language courses from 0 to B1. Not possible for me again. And also, we are a little bit flexible. Last year, there was also a change in Germany that the embassy in Senegal switched the visa recognition to the new agency of foreign affairs in Berlin. And we received the candidates mid of November, so some months later than the official start. But in Ethiopia, this year everything worked perfectly. In the past, it was difficult. This last year, very good. And also Mozambique, the embassies are very cooperative. The embassy is very cooperative. And 1 year. The answer is more or less 1 year.
Got it. Thanks, Heinz. And I appreciate we have 5 minutes left, but we still have about 5 or 6 questions. Should we do you have a few more minutes, Heinz, to go over, or should we pick a
No
question
problem.
for you?
No, I
Okay.
smoked a cigarette before, so we have 10 minutes more time.
Excellent. Thanks. Great. So the next question is about, do you have any insights or thinking around worker retention? From Ravenna Sost. They're asking about the challenge, not just about, attracting workers or hiring them, but also ensuring longer term perspectives, career progression beyond the apprenticeships or the 3 apprenticeships. Are you thinking about that?
Also, I'm not relevant for this question, but we are also in discussion with our construction contractors. And with the exception of the one guy, more or less everyone is very happy. And they are also in talks with the apprentices who are in Germany, and they make this year the apprenticeship about the further qualification because they see also, this is important to mention, until today, we only, unfortunately, academic people from Ethiopia, from the construction sector. That means architects and civil engineers. And mostly they are jobless. One lady we took from a barber shop, civil engineer, and worked in a barber shop. One guy from Mozambique, kind of technical. We took him from a supermarket where he worked as a cashier. And the companies see that these people are able to do more than working with their hands. And they are now in talks. What are you doing after finishing the apprenticeship? Are you interested to work in our company as a master or a calculator or quantified software and so on? The companies are not blind and they see the talents of these guys. And we have the first people who, I think around 7 or 8 who made the German driving license, who made during their apprenticeship a further qualification for using machines. Those are necessary, these further qualification. And if they are motivated, engaged, and have talent, the door is open like everyone who's working here. There's no different.
Thanks, Heinz. The next question is from Zainab, and it's on career development. So I think you answered that in your previous answer, but Zana, please clarify through the Q&A section if there's a specific piece that you want addressed. The next question is around numbers. How many apprentices have successfully started an apprenticeship already, and how many are in the process? Lucas is asking because he wants to find out how many young Ethiopians can actually afford to cover these costs. So maybe more on the numbers around how many have been placed and how many are in training right now.
Also, 65 people until today. We don't talk about this year, 26. One was fired, and 4 of 4 made the exam, and 4 of 4 are working now as a skilled worker in the companies. So 60 are still somehow doing this year their exam, the skilled worker exam, next year the next one, because you can choose 2 or 3 years duration of an apprenticeship. And yeah, I missed something of the questions.
No, that was it. Thank you, Heinz. And so we have some broader questions now on regional insights. Fabio would like to know why has Bauverbände chosen sub-Saharan countries as countries of origin? Have you thought about other countries, Central Asian countries, or the Western Balkans, for instance?
Also I know it's egoistic argumentation, but we are working since many years in sub-Saharan Africa. And if you are not closing your eyes yet, you will see that the economic pressure is very, very, very high there. And that was for me a reason. If you can offer them a job or apprenticeship possibility and later a job opportunity, they will be motivated and engaged. So at final, yeah, we are benefiting from, or our companies, and we are benefiting, yeah, from the poor situation in these mentioned countries. There are differences between, for example, Ghana and Senegal, or Kenya and Ethiopia, but that was one of our reasons that there will be a great motivation, and they want to earn money, they want to survive, they want to support their family in their home countries, and that's the reason. Other countries, I have now made the first steps in direction to Indonesia, because also there was a request how we can establish migration systems in Indonesia. But beginning, only talks at the moment.
Great, thanks, Heinz. And then this is talking about sort of country choice, or what factors contribute to the success of certain countries versus others. When you're thinking about matching, so Mozambican and Ethiopian candidates compared to Ghanaian and especially Senegalese candidates, what contributed to the success of matching? Did you use different approaches for these groups?
Also, to be honest, for example, at the beginning, mostly building construction contractors were interested when we made the first workshop. Meanwhile, it switched to civil engineering. I think 60 or something between 60 and 70% are realizing an apprenticeship in this area. And for example, if one candidate was not matched, who has, for example, a building construction background, an architect, for example, and we ask him, are you also interested in an apprenticeship in the area of civil engineering? They always said yes. For example, you saw in the presentation of Denise, one candidate was matched in a company for heating, cooling, and noise insulation. I think you will never find this profession in Africa. Also, they are very flexible, also one good argument. And there is until today, there was no one who we couldn't match with his background to the German adequate company who said, no, I will only make an apprenticeship in this or in this area.
There should be an easy one. Is there an age limit to apprenticeships?
Pardon?
Is there an age limit to apprenticeships?
Yeah. Since last year, we said the candidate who should be identified by our partners should not be older than 28. 1 year of German language, then he's 29. The candidates who are older, sometimes they are resistant to any advices or consultancy if you try to bring or to readjust the direction of them. For example, it's nice to make party, I agree, but not every day.
That's wise words from Heinz. So we'll wrap up the Q&A, but only to say, Heinz and Denise, that you have interest from Sudan as a sending country. So if you're looking for new countries, Ahmed asked about Sudan as a potential source. But we'll wrap up Q&A on that note. Thank you so much to both Denise and Heinz. Denise, for your excellent presentation, and Heinz for taking the time to answer all of these questions. If anything, these questions should show you both how much interest there is in the work that you're doing. So thank you again, and I'll turn over now to Alicia to wrap things up.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to hear this presentation and also to get such great questions from this crowd and many familiar faces. And we've known that a lot of these questions are kind of percolating throughout the space. So it's really good to have an opportunity to talk through them together. Secondary reason for being really happy with the questions is that Heinz threatens to make us sing if we didn't get enough questions, and luckily nobody was subjected to that torture. So we wanted to look forward into what's the next sessions in our webinar series, and we are really excited to be bringing in a back-to-back duo of sessions, which is focused on the business space and the investment space for technology and startups. So those of you who have been following along know that we've been really focused on migrant finance over the last 2 quarters. And we're taking a bit of a pivot to look more at what is investment that's happening from the philanthropic space, the venture capital space, and how can we scale through different types of platforms that can be applied in a number of different contexts. So the first webinar is on February 18th. Prerna will be leading again with our collaborators that are co-hosting from the Job Tech Alliance and Mercy Corps and BFA Global, also together with IOM. And we're bringing together mobility startups, thinkers, and practitioners to talk about how some of this scaling can occur. The next day, February 19th, we are hosting another webinar that's bringing in a spectrum of investors into this space. So we have RTP Global, Wes, and Owl Ventures, all representing more of a venture space. And then Ed Shapiro from the Shapiro Foundation is going to talk about some of the more philanthropic patient capital investments that he's made. Really exciting time. This is, again, another pivot into this kind of question of scale. We'd love for you all to be there. And again, I know it's back to back. It's semi-strategic. We're hoping it works out that you can take a little bit of time out of mid-February to really dig into this topic with us. And we thought back to back would be a nice way to do it. So with that, thank you again, Denise and Heinz. It was really wonderful to be able to share this time with you, and to our community for being here. And as we've said, the network is all of us. So we would love to know who you'd like to hear from next. We will be open to that. We'll see you on LinkedIn, join the community and chat with us there. Good to see you all, and we'll talk soon.